There is a fee coming out of your retirement account right now that you have never seen on a single statement. And over a full working life, in a real example, it can quietly take about $1.5 million from you. That is not a rounding error, and it is not a scare number. A 1% yearly fee can swallow about a quarter of everything you would otherwise have had, and you will never once receive a bill for it. So stay with me. In the next few minutes you will see exactly how a number this tiny does this much damage, why it is hidden so well, and the cheap door that fixes almost all of it. Chapter 1. The fee, the number you never see. It has a deliberately boring name. The expense ratio. The average actively managed stock fund charges about 0.64% a year, every year, on everything you have invested, win or lose. And that fee does not care how you actually did. Up year, down year, or a full-blown crash. It comes out exactly the same. You can lose money for the year and still pay full price for the privilege. Now compare that to a plain index fund. The average index fund charges about 0.05%. Same market, often the exact same 500 companies sitting in your account. That is roughly 12 times the fee. For buying, very often, the same stocks. On $5,000, that is about $2.50 a year in an index fund versus over $30 in the active one. Small, until it isn't. And where does that 1% actually go? Usually it is split several ways. The fund company, the advisor who sold it to you, and the platform that holds it. Each quietly takes a slice you never itemize. And here is the quiet part, the trick that makes it work. That fee is not a bill you pay. It is skimmed a tiny bit every single day, straight out of the fund, before the number ever reaches your screen. There is no line on your statement that says fee. No invoice ever arrives in the mail. The fund simply reports a number that is a little smaller than it should be, quietly, forever. And your statement is not technically lying to you. The fee really did come out. It simply never appears as its own line. It is baked silently into the price of the fund before you ever look. And remember whose money that is. It was never the fund's. It is yours, taken off the top, before you ever see the total. So the fee always gets paid, every day, no matter what the market does. You just never notice it happening. Chapter 2. The compounding, why 1% becomes 25. So how on earth does 1% a year turn into a quarter of your money? It genuinely sounds impossible. The answer is compounding. The same force that builds your wealth, quietly working in reverse. Picture two identical savers over 40 years. One pays no fee, one pays 1%. For the first decade, the gap is almost invisible, a few $1,000s. Then compounding takes over, and the gap explodes. Now run that tape all the way forward. 35 years of contributions, and 35 years of tiny daily skims stacking quietly on top of each other. That is how a rounding error becomes a mansion you will never own. In a real Forbes example, that saver ends with $5.8 million paying no fee, but only $4.3 million paying 1%. Same contributions, same market. The fee alone cost $1.5 million. Here's exactly why it hurts so much. The fee comes off your entire balance, not just your gains. So every year it quietly removes money that would have compounded on top of itself for decades to come. Every dollar skimmed today is not just a dollar. It is the $10 or $20 it would have grown into by the time you retire. That is the real theft, not the fee, but the future it erases. Small fee, very long time. That is the entire formula. It is never dramatic in any single year, which is exactly why it works so well, and exactly why almost nobody ever stops it. And it does not even take a full 1% to do real damage. Even 0.5% compounded over a career quietly costs most people well into six figures. The number changes. The direction never does. And you do not need millions for this to bite. On a single $100,000, choosing a 1% fund over a near-free one costs over $400,000 across 30 years. From one decision you probably never revisited. So you did not lose 1%. Compounded across a lifetime, you lost about a quarter of everything you were ever going to have. Chapter 3. The machine. Why the fee stays so well hidden. Why is a fee this powerful kept so quiet? Because a small percentage is easy to wave away, and much, much easier to sell than the real dollar cost printed in plain English. And the whole experience is quietly designed so you never quite feel it. Percentages instead of dollars. One blended number instead of a breakdown. Nothing that ever makes you picture the years being taken from you. 1% sounds like nothing at all, but 1% across a large fund is a fortune flowing out every year. Same number, a completely different feeling depending on who is saying it. And the pitch for that fee is almost always performance. We beat the market. But over 10 and 15 years, the large majority of active funds actually lag the plain index they charge 12 times more than. And for most people, nobody even chose this on purpose. A default menu inside a workplace plan picked the fund years ago, and the fee has been running quietly in the background ever since, on total autopilot. And notice the asymmetry. The fee is guaranteed. You pay it every single year. The market-beating performance it promises is not guaranteed at all. You are certain to pay, and only hoping to win. Sit with that for a second. You are often paying 12 times the fee for a fund that most likely does worse than the cheap one sitting right next to it. Chapter 4. The honest part. When a fee is actually worth it. Now, in fairness, and this is the part the angry videos always skip, not every fee is a rip-off. Some are genuinely worth paying. A genuinely good advisor can earn their fee, talking you out of selling in a crash, saving you thousands on taxes, planning the whole picture around your life. That can be worth far more than 1%. So the problem is not paying for real advice. The problem is paying 1% for a fund that just quietly tracks the market anyway. Work an index fund does for almost nothing. So here's the fair test. The calm one, not the angry one. Ask what the fee actually buys you. Real planning, real hand-holding, real tax work. It might be worth every cent. Just a fund copying the index? Almost certainly not. And the good news here is genuinely enormous. Index funds already fixed most of this problem years ago. 0.03%. For almost everyone, that is as close to free as investing will ever get. So this is not a hopeless problem, and the fix is not complicated or expensive. The door is right there, and it costs almost nothing to walk through it. Chapter 5. The door, what you actually control. So here are 3 honest moves, and none of them are dramatic or scary. 1. Find your expense ratio. It is a single search inside your fund or your investing app, and honestly, most people have never once looked at it. 2. Compare that number to a plain index fund covering the same market, usually somewhere around 3 to 0.05%. Because the switch itself is almost boringly simple. Moving from a 1% fund to a near-free index fund covering the very same market can save 6 figures over a lifetime for a few minutes of quiet paperwork. 3. Decide on purpose whether that difference is buying you anything real. If it is, keep it with a clear conscience. If it is not, the cheap door is usually one form and a few clicks away. And you do not have to blow up your whole portfolio to do it. Even pointing your future contributions at the cheaper fund quietly fixes the leak going forward. No big sale, no tax bill. Because the real price of that fee was never just money. On many paths, a single extra 1% means working 5 to 7 more years before you can afford to stop. That is the real trade you have been making all along, without ever agreeing to it. Years of your life handed over quietly, for a number small enough that nobody ever made you stop and look at it. You never chose this fee out loud. It was just the default, sitting quietly in the background. But now that you can finally see it, the choice is actually yours. If you want the shortcut, the free money map at marketminute.us shows you what you are really paying in about a minute. We ask for your email. That is the whole trade. No credit card, nothing to buy. And if this changed how you see that quiet little fee, subscribe. The last one showed how 7 stocks quietly took over your retirement. Go watch that one next. I'll see you there.